Happy Monday. Welcome back to the Wolff Den presented by Win Again Academy. Mark Moyer has an in-person event in New York City on Tuesday tomorrow. Check out winagainacademy.com for more information. I am Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Today we welcome Bart Berkey into the Wolff Den. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. Fun to be here.
Great to have you. It's going to be a great conversation here. But for those who don't know who you are, give a real quick introduction, and then we'll get into everything.
Yeah, right now, it's so funny. I don't want to ever be defined by titles on my business card. I'd rather say what I do. So right now, I am a motivational speaker. I also am a trainer on sales and service. And I say that because I spent the last 32 years in the hospitality world. And then when COVID hit, had to make a decision. Do I remain in the hospitality world when people are not traveling as much? And I made a decision. I wrote a book about 7 years ago called Most People Don't. I would take time off when I was with Ritz-Carlton to speak to groups on that. And as it happened with many different people, Matt, you kind of reevaluate things when the pandemic happened. And I decided that I wanted to be able to spread positive messages of storytelling and decided to pursue Most People Don't and my own company full-time now.
So when you're looking at this decision and the pandemic hits, I mean, most people figured it's going to end. It's going to go back. We can just take a pause. Can I take that hit financially or whatever? Was that more of just like, this is a good time to maybe do something different? It's not that you had any feelings that your job wouldn't be there moving forward.
Well, there were a couple of things that happened. November, right before the pandemic hit, went in for routine nose surgery, and I don't think I ever shared this with you. Went in for routine nose surgery. I had a deviated septum ever since I was a young kid. Had a bad experience, and I decided to get my nose fixed at the time. Well, sadly, during recovery, I had a massive heart attack. This was in a surgical center. They rushed me to the hospital next door. They did the surgeries. I'm fine. It's almost, in November, it'll be 3 years. But that kind of made me reevaluate a lot of things. When you go through a near-death experience, you kind of have to stop and think. So that was one indication that while I loved hospitality, I think I had a greater message to share with people. Then the second thing, I had an opportunity of taking an early retirement package from my hotel job. And when I found out that the majority of my team was not going to be asked to come back and were laid off permanently, I realized there was writing on the wall that most likely my job would be gone.
Yeah.
And you look at it, Matt, things happen for a reason. The pandemic happened for me, not to me. And it gave me that nudge that I needed to be able to say, I want to do this full time.
And I think that did it for a lot of people. Hopefully they're doing it with success and not just like, just people could have gone, pivoted, done something and it, blow up in their face or just didn't, for whatever reason, become successful. I asked this of a number of guests. Why do we have to wait till we have a heart attack or till someone dies to I mean, I had my father died 17 years ago, and that was a moment for me to be like, this is how I'm gonna live my life. And I really kind of do it, but we do every time something happens, you sort of have that little rush of energy and feeling like, man, I got it. This is a wake up call. Why do we need that?
We shouldn't need that. And part of my message that I share is don't wait. Most people don't live their life to their fullest. Most people don't pursue their passions. Most people don't face their fears. There's a variety of different things. And it's so funny, Matt, as you say that, when I'm presenting to audiences, I might have a few slides, but did you ever see when your computer crashes and it's just that blue screen with a little bit of white writing on it? Like it's clear that your computer has crashed.
Yeah.
So I have a screenshot of that. And when I'm presenting, I'm going through different imagery, slides. And then all of a sudden, and I don't tell the AV people right in the room, I don't tell the audience members what it is, but it's a screen crash, computer crashed image. And my message is don't wait. because you don't know when that's going to happen. You don't know when your computer's going to crash. You don't know when your body's going to crash. You don't know perhaps when your full-time job is going to crash. So don't wait. Don't wait. Um, and when I share stories, I try to convince people to see the benefits of not waiting, the benefits of doing compared to the consequences of not doing. So much of it has to come from internal drive. And I believe hearing stories that relate to people so they can then understand, I don't want to wait. I want to pursue my purpose over pennies. I want to pursue my passion over power, and whatever other P's we can throw in there.
Yeah, but I mean, I think when you're unhappy about something, change it. So whether that's your job, where you live, who you're in a relationship with, your friends, all of that stuff. But there's different levels. Like I could be happy, I could be content, right? But am I unhappy? And not am I unhappy because something happened? There's a moment. Am I generally unhappy overall? I'm overall unhappy. Sure, there's moments. Life is a roller coaster, regardless.
Yeah.
But I think people sit in that unhappy way too much. Most of it's financial related, right? Because if you have a job, I'm getting paid well, my bonus is coming next time, I get good benefits. If you're in a marriage, it's probably financially, right? Like it's going to change my world financially. Maybe there's kids involved. I don't have kids, so I'm not here to speak on it. But, if you're unhappy about that, like there's got to be something that you can do to correct that. And most people don't, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I have been kind of studying for most of my life. What allows people to make changes? What allows people to do? I share this quick little fable. 3 frogs sitting on a log. 3 frogs decide to jump. How many frogs are left on the log? I'll ask you.
3 frogs on a log. They all decide to jump.
Mm-hmm. How many frogs are left on the log?
I don't know. If they jump from the log to the log, maybe 1.
I knew you'd complicate it because you're that intellectual thing. I love it. The answer that I share is there are 3 frogs left, because deciding, that's the operative word. 3 frogs decide to jump. Deciding is different than doing.
Right.
I think people get stuck in that unhappy level because it is easy to be, while it's better to become. Becoming takes action, and doing and effort. There's another story that I share, Matt. There was a study done in Europe. They watched 27,000 people either make a decision between stairs and escalator. So imagine you're at the airport, you're at a mall, there's stairs and escalator right next to each other. They watched 27,000 people. If people were physically able to take the stairs, they were categorized into being able to make a choice. Now, if they had 18 kids and a bunch of luggage or on, wheelchair, whatever, crutches, they wouldn't be counted. But if you were apparently physically able, only 1% of people choose to go up the stairs. Only 1%. When they were interviewed, the people said they either had a health scare or someone in their immediate family had a health scare.
Interesting.
The other 99%, when interviewed, why did you choose to go up the escalator? Because it was easier.
Yeah.
Because I'm lazy. Because I didn't want to elevate my heart rate. I didn't want to get sweaty. I didn't want to move my body. Like all of these different reasons. And a lot of that has to then do with, sorry, I just cut you off, but a lot of it has to do with this, and I'm learning this very quickly, this self-sabotage. People don't believe that they deserve happiness. People don't deserve that they deserve good things. And there's another statistics that went on. I think it was a Cleveland Clinic did this study. The average person has something like 60,000 thoughts in their mind throughout the day. 60,000 thoughts. Maybe you heard this. 90% of them are repetitive. I have to get ready for the Wolff den. Matt's going to interview me. I want to make sure I have my speaker set up. And yes, I think I'm ready. I'm just going to wear a t-shirt. Like all of these thoughts, repetitive, 90%, 85% of those thoughts happen to be negative. Well, what if he doesn't hear me? What if my beard doesn't look good? Oh, don't have a green screen. Oh yeah, I look like I'm losing a lot more hair. Gosh, I look old today. Like, right. So these are all thoughts that are coming into our own head, going back to your point, why don't we do something about it? Why don't we change the chapter, change the channel, change the thought? And that's kind of like human behavior, which makes it so very interesting to be able to talk about. I always want to improve, so I'm always looking to see, what can I do better? If I'm okay, what can I do to get better? If I'm learning, what can I do to learn more? Like, there's this innate drive, I think, for me personally, to want to get better, because often I play in that I'm okay level. Not I'm thrilled, but I'm okay level. And it's just the chemical imbalance in my body that I am not necessarily always a positive person. So I am searching always for what makes Matt happy. Oh, I want to learn about Take a Time Machine. I want to learn about collectibles. I want to learn more about sports. I want to learn about the guests that he has. Like, all of these things I am looking for. And when I find them, then I'm able to share with people, makes me feel good, and hopefully makes others feel good.
Yeah, but the elevator stairs is interesting because I'm both. It's a situational thing for me. It could be, do I want to not get sweaty? How tired am I? What am I carrying?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's easier to do that. And even just the other day, the straight one that moves, I didn't use. I used to always use that. Now I walk, around. I always try and get a little bit more exercise whenever I can. To me, that's easy exercise. Like when you don't have the time to do, a half hour, walk up these stairs, go walk that instead of doing it. Now you got a little bit more exercise in your day when you don't have an opportunity. So that would be interesting to see, are those people consistent or are they situational like me? I have to think about it. I'm probably 50-50. Maybe I'm a little bit leaning more towards the escalator.
Yeah, but that's at least good that you know that you're situational. And part of that is also self-awareness. A lot of people that aren't situational are there are people that always take the escalator or the elevator because it is always easier.
Yeah.
So it's good that you know that about yourself, Matt.
Yeah, I'm very self-aware. It's good. It's a blessing and a curse. It's for both. The other thing is, I had John O'Leary on, and he talked about, this is the best life, and I can't imagine having a better life. It always can be better, right? But it always can be worse. So I think, there's a fine line between having the gratitude and being thankful, and privileged to what we have and where we're at, but also thinking it could get better. That's not necessarily negative thinking.
No, I think it's, and I was thinking about this the other day. Imagine, why did, I'll say, cavemen, I know there's a more archaeological correct term to say, but why did cavemen invent fire? Why did human beings invent the wheel? Because they weren't satisfied and they needed to solve a problem. They realized that they had a situation that they needed to fix. They were cold, so they figured out fire. They couldn't eat raw meat, so they figured out fire. They, were tired of pushing things, so they invented the wheel. I think there's this discontent with human beings in general that can be good, because if we are fully satisfied with everything, what else do we have to learn? And you'll appreciate this quote a friend of mine shared. Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, said that if you are green, you are growing, but if you are ripe, you are dying. Like fruit, right? If you're green, you're growing, but when you're ripe, like that's it. So let's always continue to try to be green. Let's always try to continue to learn, to improve, to get better. Doesn't mean that you can't live in the present and be satisfied with where you are. But I think there's part of the hunger of wanting to become better, which is a natural thing.
Do most people want to become better?
Wow. That's
I think probably not. I think they're content and that's it.
Wow. 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 You blew me away with that question, Matt. What a high gain question. Let me just share some thoughts. The audiences that I present to, I let people know that my message of doing, and I share stories, a motivational storyteller, is appropriate for anyone that believes or wants to get better. And I'll share this quote one more time. It is easy to be. I can be unmotivated today. What do I need to do tomorrow to remain unmotivated? Nothing.
Nothing.
I am unfit today. What do I need to do tomorrow to remain unfit? Nothing.
Right.
But the companies that hire me, the employees that benefit, the attendees that benefit, the people that engage, I believe are all people that want to get better. So I don't know what that percentage is of people that are very content. I think there's two realms, perhaps. And I don't want to make this all about fitness, but if I were 1,000 pounds, maybe I was content with being unfit. Instead of 1,000 pounds, let's just say I'm unfit. Maybe I'm content to be unfit. Now you have hopefully the majority of other people that want to learn, that want to read, that want to take classes, that want to learn something new, that want to challenge themselves, that want to have new experiences to live life. I would say kind of in the middle. And then I'm meeting some really interesting people as a result of my message and the TED Talk that I had done. There's other people, as an example, my dear friend Sid Holly, who is the first female Jain monk. So she's a monk, the first North American monk. She also happens to be an Iraqi war veteran that is now a monk. Her belief and her philosophy, she definitely pushes nonviolence, being kind to everybody. But I've had this conversation with her that she is content. She doesn't have tons of physical things, physical beings, physical items. Her purpose is to, she believes that the content comes from the soul. So if you are happy in your soul, if you are content, then you don't need things, you don't need objects, you don't need money, you need relationships, you need people, but it comes from the inside about being content and happy. So I think you have two.
The monk thing is interesting. You have to be in a community. If you're Amish, if you're a monk, if you're Orthodox, you have to be in a community that has all this stuff that's conducive to that. Baby, you can't throw a monk in the middle of New York City and give them nothing and they thrive, right?
Yeah, ooh, that's another good one. Yeah, she lives at a retreat center outside of Dallas, Texas. They grow their own food. They have volunteers. They do different retreats. So she is minimalistic that way. But when I met her, she did her TED Talk with me in New York City. And yes, she stayed in a hotel. And yes, she rode in a cab. So there's, I think, different levels of individuals, whether you're part of this group or that group. But I do agree with you, Matt. I think you need to have the resources and the support to be able to help you be the type of person that you want to be.
I want to get back to your fitness example. I think it actually proves to be good because changing, if I want to be better, if I want to improve, that's work. That's not easy. It doesn't matter what it is. Now, there's also levels. As you delay in things, it becomes harder. So if I let myself go and I'm 10 pounds, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, 100, it becomes increasingly harder to do, and you're less and less likely to do that. So I would think that, if people are taking the easy way out with the stairs and all that, generally speaking, they're taking the easier road and not wanting to improve. I want to improve and get better, and I try. I do a good job in a lot of ways, and I fail in a lot of ways. But it's not easy. It's not easy. Because I think at our core we're pretty good.
Yes. Yeah. I think at our core we're pretty good also. And think about you, Matt, right? Starting your business, having 231 podcasts underneath your belt, being all over social media, creating something from scratch based on something that you're passionate about. Most people don't do that. Most people
4 episodes, I think, on the podcast, and I made very little money, because I have to spend. So, to go that long without making money, that prevents people from continuing on in the business. And that's the thing, is just powering through that. You have the physical, mental ability, right? Because it's not easy mentally, financial ability. Very lucky to be able to figure that part out. And that's why But some of that stuff is like, it'd be interesting to find out, like, why most people don't do this. Why? Because it's not that hard to do. Not a business, not a pie. Certain things are just not that hard to do, and people don't do it.
Yeah. So when you said that, what comes to mind besides stairs versus escalator? Is there anything that comes to mind besides physical fitness that most people just don't do?
Maybe just like even some polite things, like open a door, say thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Wait, if someone lets you through, right? Wave to them.
Yeah.
And here's the cool thing about because I am sharing this message, I am not perfect. I strive to become better. That's the difference, I think, with a lot of different people. But quick little story. I was at Trader Joe's shopping the other day, and there was a grandmother with her little granddaughter, and the little granddaughter in the I don't know, the front little section of the shopping cart was thirsty, and she was asking for something to drink. And the woman said, do you sell water right here? No, it's on aisle 7. Well, they still had a bunch of groceries to go through. I have 2 kids. They're older now. I know what it's like. She said, well, I can't leave my granddaughter. I can't leave. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. I'm like, let me go get you some water. What aisle is it in? And they directed me, and I came back with, okay, this big one is 79 cents. And then this little 6-pack is $2.39. Which one would you like? Easy for me. Easy, easy, easy. She was so grateful. The grandmother was so grateful that I did that. It took 2 seconds out of my day. It was 18 extra steps. And then the cashiers that worked there were so grateful. Thank you for helping her. It's no big deal, but I think we need to be reminded that we can do things like that. We just have to be focused on other people, get out of our own mind and say, I'm listening, I'm watching, I'm observing this cute little kid with a grandmother, and the kid is thirsty. How can I help? How can I help? And I don't know why. Not everyone sees these things, but that's part of the message, right? Keep your blinders on for other people, not for yourself, your own worries. Put blinders on. What do you see in front of you?
But the people see it, they just don't act on it.
I guess so. And then the question is why? Why not? Why not? Is it embarrassing to ask someone for help? Is it embarrassing to offer to go get water for someone? Is it too much effort to hold open the door? Like, I don't know, but I think the more that we share messages like this, the more that people will do. And when everyone's holding open the door for each other, when everyone is kind and gracious, it becomes a better place. It becomes a better place for everybody, right?
We won't be alive when everyone does it.
Well, and someone interviewed me not that long ago, Matt, and they said, "What do you what is your future goal with most people don't?" And I said, "Yeah, I have the words most people don't are trademarked. I own those words." I said, "I want most people don't to go out as a statement. I don't want it to exist as a statement. I want to be able to change it to all people do." Wouldn't that be a beautiful world?
Is there anything in this world that everyone does besides breathe?
I mean, besides physicality parts of heartbeat and breathing, I was going to say wear socks, but there's people in the world that don't wear socks.
Yeah.
Everyone in the world eats, but there's some people that don't have food. Everyone has water. Not everyone has water. That's really interesting. I think this is one thing that everyone can do. You have the ability of making other people feel a certain way.
Yeah.
That's a superpower that we all have. And then the other thing that I think everyone can do is it's up to us to decide our attitude, our approach, our opinion, how we're feeling. That's in our own mind. So I think two things, right?
It takes as much energy to be nasty as it does to be kind. Yeah, I'd argue it takes more energy to be nasty, depending, if you're inherently just, a good person, which again, that's subjective, but like I'm not walking around angry.
Yes.
So if you're not walking around angry, and it takes more energy to just sort of be nasty or be not nice than to just smile and
And be
there's some
kind.
percentage, like when you smile at someone, the feeling it gives them.
Yes. Yes. So I think we're solving a whole lot of situations here then, Matt. Thank you.
Some of the world's problems. How did you come up with most people don't? Because you said you were working on.
I was with Ritz-Carlton at the time. Yeah. So the company's been around for probably, I mean, full-time 2.5 years, but part-time well over 10 years. I was a recruiter for Ritz-Carlton, and I went to a university trying to recruit seniors. And I'll share this quick story with you. It's part of my TED Talk, but I went into a ballroom. There's all these students there that are trying to get jobs, but I noticed 4 students that were only talking to themselves. I thought it was strange. I went up and I introduced myself and I asked them, "You're seniors, you're looking for jobs, correct?" "Yes." "There's great companies here. Why aren't you networking? This is a networking event." And they said, "We're here for the free food." And their second response was, "We haven't seen each other for a long time." I thought, how can we change this behavior? So I gave them a challenge, Matt. I said, go around, collect as many business cards as you can. Let's make it a game. Whoever meets me in this corner of the ballroom, 1 hour, whoever has the most, I'll buy you a gift card to your favorite restaurant here in this local college town. Everyone was like, yes, Mr. Berkey, we'll do it. We'll do it. Great. Hour passes by. No one shows up. The next morning, one-on-one interviews. First lady that comes in hands me a resume, student. I look at the resume, I look at her. I'm like, wait a second. We met last night. What happened? And her response was, I didn't think you were serious. She didn't think I was serious about the challenge of collecting cards. So I left that recruitment trip sad and dejected, thinking most people don't follow up. Most people don't accept challenges. Most people don't do what they say they're going to do. I then started to recruit more senior level positions, and I found the same thing. There was a great job open in Southern California. I interviewed 50 well-qualified candidates, and then I waited a day or two to see who would follow up. And when I waited, I think there was probably about 8 or 9 that sent a follow-up email saying thank you. That's it. And I share this. I said, putting thank you in a subject line, 9 keystrokes. It takes 1.7 seconds to say thank you, but most people don't follow up. I waited another day or so. Who would write a handwritten note? Just a very few did. Who would make a phone call? Just a very few people, right? So it kept on going down and down and down and down. One person put together, here's the resume, here's the job description, here is the value of what I can bring to the table, got it bound at an office store, sent it overnight to me. That's the person that got the job. But most people don't. And that's how it came. And I thought, if I can educate people as a recruiter, if you're looking for a job, you really need to do. You need to take the extra steps. You need to follow up. You need to be professional. You need to accept challenges. You need to, all of these things that people were not doing. You want a job, you should do these things. But then I realized very quickly that it was wonderful life advice, that there's things that most people don't do. But if you can do them, you're going to differentiate yourself. You're going to make the world a better place. You're going to have better relationships. And I don't want it to sound melodic, but it's true.
We had I told you I was on a call this morning on another show and talk about the word can't, because that's what I got a lot when I first started. When I started the company, they said, well, we can't do that. And I go, well, I know you can, you just don't want to, or you're not willing to do. So that's the other thing. Like, do what people won't do, what they don't want to do, not what they can't do. And that's a big difference, because there's so many things like chopping up lettuce and cucumbers and carrots to make a platter. I always do that, but people are lazy. They don't do that. So they create a platter and they pay 4 times as much, so you don't always have to reinvent the wheel, but doing the things that others don't want to do or won't do is give you a leg up. And you don't have to be like, think about the resumes, like the consideration that you're going to give to the people who do that. They're not necessarily even going to be better qualified. Right. But that's the part of the thinking of, it's not always just what is my qualifications, what does my resume say? Like, how else can you judge who a person is? Because everyone can, first of all, the resume is the resume. Who knows what that is? But the interaction you have, the follow-up that you have, the feeling you get, the communication, the style, the thinking, That's all things that you want to see in someone who you want to work with.
Yeah, anyone that they're just putting forth the effort that is going above and beyond. And when we're saying above and beyond, in that example, above and beyond was set very, very low. The only above and beyond that I was looking for was follow-up.
And everyone's taught to do that. I mean, I'm terrible. I was terrible at interviews. Everyone knows you send a follow-up. Everyone knows that. And then, but yet they don't all do it.
Yes, yes. And then it also gets back, Matt, to I talk about something called should do's. So there's things that we want to do. There's things that we need to do. There's things that we're expected to do. You can think about all those categories, right? I want to buy a motorcycle. I want to travel more. Then I need to pay my bills. I need to pay taxes. I need to be successful. I need to take care of my family, and then expected to do. But then there's something that I talk about. It's called the should do's. And I ask individuals, I said, what is just one thing that you know that you should do personally and professionally that you've not yet, and that's an operative word, growth mindset, that you've not yet had a chance to do? And we get some phenomenal answers. So if I were to ask you, Matt, what is one thing that you know that you should do, let's say professionally, that you've not yet had a chance to do? What would it be?
What should I do?
Yeah, one thing. And no one is telling you this. This is not directed at me. No one's pointing their finger.
Yeah, I mean, I should get more organized, and I'm a really organized person, but I let myself, if you look here, it's bad.
Okay, so one thing that you should do is get more organized. And then you have to think about, well, what is preventing you from getting organized?
Well, it's that weight thing, right? It's like the time and don't want to do it, and then it just piles and it gets worse. I tell my wife that the same thing with the dishes. Like I'm a dishes, I do them right after the thing. I don't let it pile up. The laundry, once you start letting things pile up, now it becomes harder to do. And so I get the easy stuff off of my plate.
Yeah.
But then things happen and you get busy and you figure this is more important than that. I can function this way.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like you said, like I don't want to do it. There's things that I know that I should do. I should get more organized, but I don't really like it. I don't really enjoy it. So a very dear friend of mine, Gail Olofsson out of Rhode Island, shares this. And it's a quote by Mark Twain. And it's eat a frog for breakfast. Because if you do that, it's going to be the worst thing that you've had to do all day.
Yeah.
And we could equate that to, I don't like to get organized. Guess what? Tomorrow morning, on your should-do list, which is not a to-do list, on your should-do list, it's going to be take step one to get more organized. Just step one.
That's all. That's a time thing for me also. I could be using that time more effectively to do, anything else that might be helping drive business, let's say.
Yeah. And then that goes back to, your overall why. Right? If I ask you one thing that you should do, well, I should become a bodybuilder. You're asking me, right? I should become a bodybuilder. You know what? If I think about that, that doesn't really relate to my values. I don't need to do that. I don't really want to do that. I don't really think I should even do that. So it's not, I shouldn't do anything that is reflecting being a bodybuilder because it doesn't meet with my overall objectives. So if getting organized for you in this situation doesn't help you drive your business, then you know what? It doesn't really matter. Then maybe you choose a different should do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the should do is like, I should call this person, reach out. I haven't talked to them in a while. There was a chance.
Yeah.
The waitress last night actually knew someone we knew, and we're like, do you talk to her? Yeah, not as often as I should,
Yeah.
And you realize, well, it takes a chance meeting like that it goes back to us like something needs to hit us on the head in order for us to do it. And then all the things that we've decided to do, I wanted to bring it back to something you said.
Yeah.
I had thousands of ideas in my mind that I thought were great, and some were business related, some were physical related, whatever it was. And I decided in my mind I'm going to do it, and I never did it. And the part of I talk about this often is just that, and I'm just going to ask you about your background, the brick wall. It's like you hit that one, you come to this brick wall, and you're like, well, how am I going to get around this? When in fact, maybe you could climb over the wall, or maybe it's like one of these fake things, or like you just push and it comes over.
Or maybe it's a virtual background, which it is, and all I have to do is click a button and it's going to dissolve. But as you talk about obstacles, and you'll appreciate this, I encourage people, especially coming out of the pandemic, that we need to make sure that we are flexible. Okay. And I shared this one little quick story. I said, imagine a windstorm is coming to your neck of the woods, to your office, to your home. It's going to come tonight. You see it on the forecast. Would you rather your home be surrounded by oak trees, strong, majestic, have been around for hundreds of years with deep, deep roots? Or would you rather your home be surrounded by bamboo? And I'll get different responses. What would you rather it be surrounded by?
I mean, I'm
oak trees in a windstorm or bamboo?
in a windstorm. I mean, the thing is, I'd look. What looks better? I don't worry about the windstorm. That's the view I take.
But a windstorm is coming tonight, Matt. What would you, for protection, what would you rather be surrounded by?
Bamboo is probably safer, isn't it?
Yes, it is, because oak trees resist the wind and they topple over. Okay. It resists and it bends and it breaks. Compare that to bamboo, very strong, very regenerative. It's almost as strong as steel. I've done research on this. And what happens in the wind with bamboo? It's a grass because it bends. It bends. It protects, but it bends. So it's not going to topple over and crush a home or crush a car. I would rather be surrounded by bamboo. So that little story that I shared this months ago. And about once a week for at least 6 months, a woman would send me a note saying, I'm being flexible. You'd be proud. She'd tell me what she was doing. And she ended it #BeBamboo. So we actually have created t-shirts that say #BeBamboo, just as a way to remain flexible. Things are going to hit us in different ways, but let's be flexible. One other part I wanted to share with you, and I think you'll appreciate this. You're talking about, a brick wall, and there's ways of going over it, around it, deconstructing it. There's different ways to be able to overcome obstacles. Another analogy that I use is, imagine you're swimming and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a 40 or 50-foot wave is approaching you and you don't have time to swim to shore. What do you do? What do you do? What do surfers do?
I'd ride the wave.
Yeah, it's coming at you, right? And you don't even have time to turn around. What do surfers do? They duck underneath the wave.
Oh, do they?
They do a duck dive, with their surfboard. They put their knee on their surfboard and they go underneath the wave. The wave goes over top and then they come out on the other side. And to me, that's just another analogy. When there's obstacles in front of us, just like you said, the brick wall, am I going to go around it? No, I can't outrun this wave. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do a duck dive underneath that puppy. The massive wave is going to pass by. I'm going to surface on the other side with a different vantage point. I'm going to see the next set of waves coming in. I can time it and I can use that next set of energy, that next obstacle, use it to my advantage and ride that energy all the way into shore, which is my destination.
I think the key thing for some people is, I don't have time to think and I'm just going to do, and I have good instincts, as opposed to, I have time to either think through this or now overthink it. Right. So people, when they have more time, and then you got those 60,000 thoughts and now it's 120,000 thoughts, because now you got something else introduced to that. So and it has to do with the brick wall and stopping, and why most people don't. It's like, we can't get out of our own way.
True. And you're lucky, Matt, that you're able to make decisions and act upon them. Now, when you're saying that, are you usually right? Your instinct, is it usually right?
No, I mean, I don't know. I'd like to think I am, but then you go back, hindsight, and you're like, I would say more often than not, I'm right, but probably could be better to increase that percentage.
Yeah, but you are running and you have started your own company. Yeah. And you're successful with it. And you've done 231 podcast episodes, and you have sponsors, and you have friends, and you have social awareness. You have done so many things. So in your case, I would say, you know what? There are some people that are going to be inundated with decision making and not move forward. And it's kind of like, think about in New York Harbor, right? A cruise ship, to be able to turn around, it's going to take them hours, because they're going to move up and move back, move up, move. But if you're this little tugboat, what can you do? You can just spin around and make a decision. That's what you're doing. You're spinning around and you're making decisions and you're moving forward.
Yeah, but I'm very lucky. I'm privileged. grateful. I believe that everything's going to be okay, and I have that belief, and so I don't worry about. I worry about very little. The stuff I worry about in life is really dumb.
Yeah.
It used to be about worry about girls. I'm married now, and now it's worried about my team and what I'm going to eat here. But that's a hard. Not a lot of people have that where they're not worried. They're constantly worried, and that's a tough way to go through life. And maybe I should be worried a little bit more. There's definitely there's somewhere in the middle where because there's reality in it. So you don't want to live in a fantasy world. We also don't want to let fear and all of these things that stop us from doing. Like if I say most people don't, fear is probably a very high number of why they don't do certain things.
Yeah. And what you also said about you also need to be realistic and think about American Idol, and you know how they would interview people before they got on stage. And it's like, well, it would mean the world to me if I won American Idol, because it would, I could buy a house for my parents and all these different things. And you're watching this person, you have no idea if they're good or not vocally, but you're rooting for them. You're like, okay, I hope they're really good. And then they'll ask the person, well, how do you know that you're a good singer? Well, my family tells me I'm a good singer. And then they get up on stage and then they are horrible. Right? That's when I think reality is so important, right? They're living in a dreamland. But as you were describing I think you are all about positivity and moving forward. And I'm thrilled that you don't have to worry about a whole lot of things, because the energy that you're putting out there, Matt, is we're going to make it happen, right? I know who I am. I want to take care of my family, right? I want to take care of my team. But you are thinking forward and you are thinking positive. And because you are emitting that energy and you're not emitting, oh gosh, I don't know if this is going to work. Should I change the name? Should I change the logo? You're not thinking of that. You're not worrying about that. So thank goodness for people like you, because you are emitting positive energy and only good things are going to come.
I complain about things too because I think, I got this. I think I got it maybe from my mom, where I just thought that it mattered what was right or wrong or what was fair or not. And now it's like the world doesn't work that way. And it's good to realize that I don't feel like I'm owed anything, although there's certain scenarios where you're like, hey, this is I'm being wronged.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, who knows anymore what, right and wrong, fair or not. It's just sometimes none of that matters.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that. And I wouldn't lose your perspective, Matt, on right or wrong,
Well,
because
I'll always have that,
yeah,
but I still say, like, Meredith, who that's how
yeah,
we got introduced because you've worked with her.
yeah.
I forget where she got it, but she was like, "Do you want to be right or do you want to be in a relationship?" And I can't remember where she read that or heard that, but it stuck with me a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, there's another story that was called Be Right or Be Kind. And I'll share with you my interpretation of it. But gentleman, Dr. Dwayne Dyer, I heard him talk about just that statement. Would you rather be right or would you rather be kind? So I'll just share with you quickly. I was traveling, this was years ago, and I'm waiting in line. And it was like my third connection. It was delayed. Everyone is tired. We're ready to go. And all of a sudden, I see someone, we're lining up group 1, group 2, group 3. All of a sudden, I see this guy that is fairly well dressed, fancy briefcase, fancy luggage, cuts the line. You can just see him like sneaking right around, right around, right around, right around. And I'm thinking, that son of a gun, he's probably in group 1 or 2 like me, and he just doesn't want to wait because he's got a big old suitcase. And it made me mad. And I'm thinking, should I go and tell this guy off? There was a couple ahead of me that was right in front of me, and I saw them laughing and I saw them pointing. They saw the same thing as me. And I said, can you believe the nerve of that guy? And they said, you know what? It doesn't really matter. We just bet each other a penny. It's so insignificant. We just bet each other a penny if that guy's really going to cut the line or not. And when they said that, it kind of put into perspective that I didn't need to be right. I just needed to remain calm and quiet and kind and not say a word. So when they started the boarding process, anyone traveling with small children, any military personnel in uniform, anyone that is global services, which means they probably flew 1,000,000 miles a year, that's who this guy was part of. He was allowed, entitled, and he should have cut the line because he knew he would be boarding third. And that just put into perspective that it was more important for me not to be right, but just to be kind and say nothing. I don't need to, what does it matter? It mattered a penny for the couple in front of me. It shouldn't even fill my head with anything.
Yeah.
Do you like that?
Yeah, dress the part. That's the other story. Dress the part, and people don't question it. That's part of it. Yeah, I just think, I guess the way I was trying to explain it, right or wrong, is, I don't know. I'm going to draw a blank here, but just let's say I'm talking to a company who wasn't supposed to charge you for this, and they did, and they're supposed to remove it, and it's like, but they're not going to do it. They decide that they're not going to do it. So I just don't assume that I'm entitled to anything, whether it should be, whether it seems like they're right. And that's, if we want to get political, it's like, what's true, what's right, what's good, what's bad. That's all that stuff's been blurred these days in my eyes. So I try and do the best I can. I try and fight for myself and defend myself where I think is appropriate. And I don't worry about, I don't, that's not like, people can do bad and still get rewarded. That's not going to change the way I, in the way I.
And I shouldn't have said that I disagree with you, because you never want to disagree with a host.
No, I like people who actually like people who disagree, who have a different point of view. I said that to someone there. I said to have people on who have a different point of view, which is good.
But my perception of you, Matt, is that you do right. You know what is right. And I could guarantee you, knowing just having this conversation and knowing your sister and knowing your background, I could guarantee you that you would do right for a customer. You would do right for a friend. You would do right, and you would do right for a stranger. Okay. Yeah. And I guess the difficult thing is, and this is what I think we definitely agree on, is that it seems unfair when we know what could be done. If someone is unhappy with something, why couldn't a company change something in order to do right by a customer? And they don't always do that. And then even life might not even seem fair. There's people out there that are struggling to make ends meet, and then there's other people that are winning the lottery that are already billionaires. Things don't always seem fair either.
Yeah, the problem with me is, and I talk about this with my sister all the time, when you talk about most people don't, and I say I put my sister in there and me in the category, and I assume you are too, like, so different from the average person out there. So when I do this, like, I don't expect anything that I don't give myself in return. And so we always sort of joke, argue, whatever about it, that like, that's just not what people do. So it's not that I don't accept it. It's because I understand that there's nothing much I can change, but I don't accept that that's okay. Yes. I don't say, okay, just because that happens and everyone doesn't do this, that's okay. And I'll do my part to try and, to do better myself, but also to try and help other people do better, and would love to be called out on my stuff. Yes. Like, what am I doing that you think I could be doing better? Because that's how we all improve. People are not aware of what they're doing. They have to be told a lot, and then told often, and then possibly have consequences. Yeah. That's where I think we lack, where it's like, there's no consequence for any of this. So I'm just going to keep doing this. It's like the kids. Yeah. Again, I don't have any kids, but like, I know when I was a kid and I see other, like, they're going to keep doing this until they're told they can't do, or until something's taken away from them. And that's the same with the average people, adults in business. Like, we're going to get away with what we can until someone tells us we can't. And but that's tough. It's tough when you see people acting a certain way, and but that's not how you are.
Yeah, and I don't think there's longevity or sustainability in that either. There's a lot of companies that are getting busted for things because of them not doing right for people and by people. And there's a topic that I'm now talking about. It's called doing decency. So I think you'll appreciate that there's this, emotional intelligence, EQ, There's intellectual quotient, the IQ. So there's thinking, there's feeling, but then there's also doing. If we know how what we do affects people, we better make sure that we do decency for people and by people. We want to make sure that we are doing the right thing. And just knowing, right, you and your sister and your brother, probably a lot of it has to be with how you grew up, right? The values that
It
were instilled.
does.
Do you think?
But you also find like this, your parents teach you stuff that you don't like, and then you go that way too. Like, I
Hmm.
don't like how this was, so I do. But it's definitely a family thing, and I can tell you, a lot of the stuff that I do, I is inspired by my sister and who she is, and it's great to have someone like that around you, to strive for.
Yeah.
But and I have a very good circle around me, whether it's my wife, my family, my friends, that gives me the comfort of the feeling that I talked about. So it's good to surround yourself with those people. Someone said surround yourself with the types of people. I don't think you should just remove people from your life if they don't have everything that you're looking for, and there's a little bit of negativity. I mean, look, there's people. To me, there's probably people I talk to in my circles where I'm the negative one, right? There's always someone who's the least amount in a group, but when you surround yourself with those type of people, it just better things happen, and you become better. You want to do better when you see other people doing.
Yeah. And I look at your sister as an example, right? I shared with you before this went live is that we worked together. She was a customer of mine when I was with Ritz Carlton. And when I left Ritz Carlton, guess what? She still picked up the phone call whenever I reached out to her. I didn't have Ritz Carlton on my business card. There were no service solutions that I could give her, but we were friends longer than business partners. And that just shows me about the quality of her, right? We've stayed in touch. I can't take her to a wonderful Ritz Carlton hotel. I can't take her to a luxury hotel and take care of her group with her current company. There is no benefit other than my friendship. And she sees that and doesn't judge. And there's other people that might not pick up my phone call because I don't have a name on my business card that
Yeah,
would perceive to benefit them. So it's rather unique, right? You, your brother, your sister, very unique and special people, and I'm glad to know you.
yeah, I appreciate that. You started the book. The book kind of started this even before you did. What made you write the book, and,
Yeah,
and what did you learn from writing a book?
yeah. The book came as a result. I was doing essentially 2 posts a week for Hotels Magazine. This started essentially when I was a recruiter. They didn't necessarily need to have stories that were talking about hotels, but just stories of observations that I felt were important, of people going above and beyond. So think about this. For 15 years, I wrote 2 stories a week, and it became very popular. And they were just like my dog's feet smell like Fritos is one of the stories. I'm allergic to gorillas. Leadership lessons learned on a racetrack. I mean, they are very unique. Are you a buffalo or a goose? Very unique little titles, little snippets. But then there's a message that associates with each one of these titles. So when I did that, it became very popular. Unbeknownst to me, I got a phone call, no, actually a message from a gentleman who owned a juice bar in India and said, I love your stories. I read them to my staff every single week.
Oh wow.
And I had no idea that it was reaching worldwide recognition, very humble. So a friend of mine said, why don't you take your favorite stories and put them into a book? And that's what I did. I took, 80 of my favorite stories, the ones that got the most comments, the ones that were most popular, and I put them into a book. And luckily, it's, on Amazon. It's about the second or third edition. I have 2 more books coming out soon, but people still like the ability of being able to pick up and just read a quick little story and have a message of kindness, doing, or gratitude as a result. Little reminders to do.
Yeah, I don't read as much as I should. I've been trying to do more of that. I also don't listen to. I should do it. I don't concentrate as much, and like so having the background, I want to really concentrate. So TED Talks, and you did a TED Talk. There's so many good TED Talks out there that it doesn't have to be that long. It's quick. It's got a good message. It's got a good story. What drove you to want to do that and sort of be a speaker?
Yeah, well, to do the TED Talk, I wanted to get my word out on a global platform. And I really thought, as soon as I do this, the world is going to know about Bart Berkey, and most people don't. Well, the nice thing is 16,000 people viewed it. I got 321 thumbs up, but it's not billions of views. It's not millions of views. It was a goal that I had to be able to spread a little bit about my story, and hopefully it would encourage and other people to think differently, to enhance their behavior, and to feel better about who they are.
It could go wild like months later, years later, though, right? What's the
Yeah,
most watched TED Talk? Do you know?
yeah. I don't know, but I'm sure it's in the half a billion probably
Oh, really?
category. Yeah. Um, but the reason why I like sharing the message of positivity and doing is because it's helping people. When I started my business, I initially thought I need to make more money than I was making before when I worked for XYZ company. And I thought that was my goal. So on my sticky note, I had, this is what I want to make per month. Am I on target? And I looked at it every single day, and I realized that's for the wrong reasons. I changed it to serve others. So my computer at home, sticky note, it says serve others. That's my goal. And if I can help motivate, inspire, tell a story that allows someone to think differently, then my goal is accomplished. And I'm getting so many lovely messages from people saying, I just sent out, it was a newsletter last week, and it was about not giving up, that moving on is different than giving up.
Right.
I can't tell you, Matt, the number of responses back that I got it from, I really needed this. You have no idea, this was perfect timing. Let me tell you how I'm using this. And when that happens, it just fills your soul for doing good. One thought, one story, one newsletter could allow someone to think, you know what? Even though I got 9 great survey responses from the people that I lead and I got one negative one, I'm not going to give up on my role. I'm going to move on from that one person that thought maybe I wasn't the best boss in the world. I'm going to learn from it, but I'm not going to let that linger. I'm going to move on.
Was that about college volleyball?
Yeah, you saw that one.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah. I quit the team, but
Yeah.
essentially I moved on from the team because I wasn't getting any playing time, and I was going to be a senior and needed to focus on my studies to get a good job. But yes, that was about volleyball.
Yeah, no, it's a good, again, it's just an interesting way of looking at things and the way you can spin, because it's not wrong to say you quit, but it's also not wrong to say you moved on. Depends on how you're looking at it. Like the glass is half, I put this in one of my, when I spoke, like the glass is half full, the glass is half empty, and there's 6 and the 9. I mean,
Yeah.
they're both right,
Yes. Yes.
but tell a much different story.
Yes. And if we think about moving on, it's going to allow us probably to feel better. I didn't quit. I didn't give up. I just was smart and I decided to move on.
Yeah, it's like retirement.
Right. And it's almost
You're
like the get
retired.
tos, right? The get tos versus the have to. I
Yeah.
have to be on a podcast, Wolf Den with Matt Wolff. Uh-uh. I get to. It is a privilege to be on this conversation. It is a privilege to be asked questions that I've never thought about the answers to. I get to be able to spend time with Matt Wolff and the
Yeah, I
Wolf Den.
appreciate it. No, that's what we aim to do, is to have a conversation that make people think, and tough, like to have tough conversations, but something that if I watched 5 other Bart Berkey conversations, that there's something new to the table
Yeah.
that you're going to learn about. You mentioned books. That's what's coming next. A couple more books coming out.
Yes, yes. The other one that I'm working on, it's called Most People Don't, But You Do, which happens to be the name of my podcast. And I know you're going to be an upcoming guest on my podcast because you have a great story, Matt, and I appreciate you. But it's going to be a collection of stories of what I've learned from the 73, 74 people that I have interviewed on my podcast, because we talk everything from self-awareness to empathy to resiliency, overcoming challenges. It has been a miracle of learnings for me, and I wanted to be able to condense some of the learnings and share with other people. And then another book is going to be about service and selling excellence. So things are on its way.
keep an eye out for both of them. I find there's very few people who don't have a good story to tell. It's two things: can you get the story out of them? Are they willing to share it? And then, how good of a storyteller are they? Because you can say the same story from three different people, and one's going to have you on the edge of your seat, and one's going to be like, "When is this over?" And right, and the other one's just going to be like, "All right, that was the
Yes,
story."
I agree.
What's on your bucket list as a speaker? Is there someone you'd love to get in front of, or a place, or an environment?
Boy, again, these are all high gain questions. So as a salesperson, you are making me stop and think about what does it look like? Wow. Um, there is an organization called VaynerMedia,
Yeah, Gary
uh,
Vee.
Gary V, right, which is so predominant and such an interesting thinker on social media and what he's doing in the digital world. I know his chief heart officer, Claude Silver, very, very well. I've had her on my show. She's had me on her show. I never want to appear to use someone to get into somebody. My friendship with Claude is real and authentic, but I would love to be able to be on a stage with someone like a Gary V, because what Claude believes in, what Gary believes in, it is really all about, and it kind of comes from my Ritz-Carlton background, about treating people the right way. Treating people the right way.
Yes,
When you do
my
that,
Gary Vee story is.
yeah,
I'll send you an email and tell you. It's probably for a whole nother episode. I'd love to have him on my show, or me be on his show to talk, and not only just because he's got a huge audience, but I find there's a lot of value in what he does, and then I also find there's a lot of BS in what he does, and that's just my experience personal with Gary Vee. But I'd love to have a conversation with him. I have exchanged emails with him, and then he stopped responding. But anyway, that would be a good place to go. I think it's good. It's one of those things where I could have a conversation with someone I don't agree with. You could have that conversation civilly,
yes,
and it's not that you're right or I'm wrong. It's just a different perspective, and
yeah,
both people can be successful in how they do things.
yeah,
So that would be a cool experience to be on a stage with Gary Vee.
yeah. And Matt, one other thing, I'm realizing that people are just people.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter if they're a political figure or a celebrity or a professional ball player. People are just people. And that's what I have learned by doing my podcast. And I think you probably learned the same. You want to get Gary Vee on? Reach out, right? I sent a note to former President Barack Obama. I wanted to get him on my show. I sent a note to Dwayne The Rock Johnson to get him on my podcast.
oh yeah, I reached out to Howard Stern,
Yeah,
Ellen
right.
DeGeneres, Oprah,
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah, why not, right? Some people respond and some people don't. And I appreciate that some people are busy and my platform isn't billions, maybe yours is not billions, but still, right? Why not ask? And I think that's fun with where we are in our lives, in our career, that we're not afraid to ask. People are people, and everyone has similar situations uh, that they need encouragement.
Yeah, I would argue, and I said again, it's all stuff I talked about earlier. I would argue that coming on my show and your show, it's probably better for them. There's people who've never, I don't care who you are, there's people who've never heard of you, and you're talking to a new audience, right? If
Yeah,
I'm, you know, Barack Obama, can I go on CNN? I guess so. Everyone knows who you are.
yeah,
Maybe go on somewhere where people don't know who you are. If you're Gary Vee, go on a show where no one's ever heard of
yeah.
who you are.
And also, Matt, what I love about this format, you're asking real, genuine questions that are making me think. This isn't scripted. We didn't
Oh, yeah,
rehearse
got to
any.
get past the surface of
Yeah,
everything. Otherwise, what's the point?
and that's what this has been one of my most enjoyable conversations of someone interviewing me. So I'm grateful, right? Congratulations and thank you. And it's fun. And what we're all are trying to do is talk and figure things out and help one another out.
Yeah, we're just trying to get through life
Yeah,
and enjoy it.
that's it. That's it.
I'm going to let you out of the wolf den with the same question everyone gets. You get a day, 24 hours to spend with anybody. You might already have said the answer, but they have to be alive. You can't be related to them. Who would you pick, and what would you guys do?
Yeah. They have to be alive.
Have to be alive.
Okay. Wow. 24 hours.
Yeah, you spend a day with anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to say, and I referenced this name already, Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
Okay.
He has, gosh, I don't know, more followers, and not from an exposure perspective, but he has more followers than, the total composition of the United States, right? I can't even remember how many million, but he seems to have a good attitude. He seems to have a great business sense, and he seems to have a steady type of approach with just about anything. To me, at least from an outsider's perspective, and I'm sure he's not perfect, but he seems to be positive and balanced and thinking of what can I do to help other people? What can I do to grow my business? What can I do to take care of my family? So perception wise, he seems to be pretty cool at business and also attitude.
Yeah, I think he'd be a great person. Very underrated actor. I think he's got like 3 or 4 movies that I really enjoy.
I agree.
Walking Tall is one of those
Oh yeah. Yeah.
real good movie. All right, well, he's on the list. I feel like he might have been announced. I keep saying this. I got to go down the list to see who else has been said. Obama is definitely number one, but 230 episodes. We've had some interesting names. We've had some interesting names said. So
Yeah.
great to have you on. Appreciate it. Check out mostpeopledon't.com down here. Check out his TED Talk. Book is out there. More books coming, and look forward to seeing what's next. And we're just trying to make the world a better place and do things that others won't do, and hopefully inspire others to do, the good in what we do.
Awesome. Matt, thank you so much. What a pleasure. Continued success with Ticket Time Machine. And thanks for letting me be on the Wolff Den.
Yeah, welcome. Stay tuned. We got more episodes this week, so come back tomorrow. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, Bart.